How do you know if you suffer from carbohydrate deficiency? There's no such thing. Find out the details here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here on the Jimmy Rants Instagram page. We do go live 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Appreciate you guys being here. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page where Katarina just came in and all the wonderful people watching live on Facebook. Thank you guys for being here. We also have all my Twitchers over here. Can I call you Twitchers? Like, it's the Twitch app. So the Twitch Rant fam, how about that? You're the Twitch Ranters. I like that better, the Twitch Ranters. So go download Twitch. It's an app for your phone, and you can download Twitch. Follow Jimmy More Rants over there. If something happens where I'm no longer on these other platforms, I will be on Twitch. So come find me over there. If you missed the live, you can watch it on the replay right here on the Jimmy Rants Instagram page. IGTV is where it's located. We also put the past episodes, and they are housed over at the Twitch app. Also at YouTube. If you type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants, you will find the show there. Today, by the way, is Wednesday. And Wednesday on YouTube, I have a special video for you guys, another kind of video for you to watch. And so it's from the Living La Vida Low Carb show. I have a brand new interview with the carnivore doctor. That's what she goes by on Instagram, Dr. Lisa Wiederman. And she's been doing carnivore for 11 years and is really adept at kind of explaining a lot of the concepts around carnivore. And we got into controversial issues about the whole idea about honey, is that carnivore, and what do you do with this and what do you do with that? So go check out my brand new interview with Lisa Wiederman, carnivore doctor, over on YouTube today. It also airs on the Living La Vida Low Carb Show podcast, llvlc.com. What is up, Ben? Love you too, man. Appreciate you being here. And then finally, pop on over to the Jimmy Rants official website. That's jimmyrants.com. And while you're there, you can see all the past episodes. If all you know what breaks loose and I lose everything on traditional social media, jimmyrants.com will be your go-to as well. I will always post stuff there. Okay, you guys, today I want to talk about a topic that is so prescient because we see this constantly. All the time, where we see articles come out and the headline says something like the headline I have for you today. Let me read the headline. Are you eating enough carbs? Watch out for the signs of carbohydrate deficiency. Okay, let me just start with the obvious. There is no such thing as a carbohydrate deficiency. And I know there's a lot of like medical professionals that aren't taught this. So you are about to learn something that most medical professionals don't even know or have any grasp of. Ready? Here we go. There are essential amino acids. So that's the protein. When you eat protein, especially animal-based proteins, you get what's called complete proteins, which is all the 29 essential amino acids. Your body has to get those from the food you consume or you will die. So protein is mandatory. You need it. It's essential. If you don't need it, you die. Guess what else we have? Essential fatty acids. So that's the fats that you eat. You absolutely have to have external sources of fat. You can't eat absolutely no fat at all in your diet and live. It's essential. Essential simply means your body can't make it, and so therefore you have to consume it to get it. So essential amino acids, the proteins, essential fatty acids, the fat you eat, especially saturated fat and monounsaturated fats, not so much on the polyunsaturated fats. And so what about, is there essential carbohydrate acids? No. Is it surprising to learn that there is no nutritional requirement for carbohydrate? Is that new information to you? Now, most of you that watch Jimmy Rants, it is not, because I talk about it ad nauseum. I wrote about it in Keto Clarity many, many years ago. I've been talking about this for years. There is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. we always hear you have to have carbs in your diet to get energy, and you need an obligate amount of carbs in your diet to feed your brain, and da-da-da-da-da. And if you don't have enough glucose, you're going to have a deficiency like this article I'm about to read to you. And it's simply not true. They don't even know basic biology of how the human body works. And this includes your doctor. Your doctor does not know this information that I'm sharing with you. Physiologically, they know all about the processes. They don't put two and two together, though. So when you don't eat carbohydrate, like on a ketogenic diet, like on a carnivore diet, like on any kind of low carb diet, when you don't eat carbs, what does the body do to get what it needs? It has this wonderful process where it takes the fats and the proteins you do eat and it converts them into glucose. Because there are various glucose-dependent functions in the body. So glucose is not the boogeyman. The source of how you get the glucose is. And so they are under this assumption that there's this great need for all these carbohydrates in your body. Would it surprise you to learn that the amount of sugar in your entire body, think about this for a second, and this is everybody, the amount of sugar in the entire body of a healthy individual. Want to take a guess how much sugar the entire body is made up of? 1 teaspoon of sugar. 1. Now, you can get that teaspoon of sugar very easily from the fats and proteins that you consume. And then a process called gluconeogenesis, where the body converts some of that extra amino acids that you eat, some of the fat that you eat, it converts it into glucose to go to all those glucose-dependent functions of the brain, the heart, and all the organs and all the body, and giving you the things that you need with that. And you become a ketone burner, and the glucose requirements become much less. But 1 teaspoon of the entire body. Now, how many doctors think that? They don't, because they tell you to go on the diet that the dietary guidelines are based on. And those are based on very high carbs. So if you're just joining us, guys, I'm about to read from one of those cockamamie articles. I love reading from these articles because this is what makes it into journalism. This is what Grandma Susie calls you and says, "Hi, I heard that you need to have carbs and you're going to have a deficiency if you don't eat carbs. I read it, so it must be true." That's why I'm here, to bring a little bit of sanity to the insane world that is nutritional health. All right, so if you just joined us, I'm reading from an article from NDTV. Are you eating enough carbs? Watch out for the signs of carbohydrate deficiency. No such thing, but we'll get into that. A number of weight loss diet plans discourage people from consuming carbs. But carbs are extremely important for your health. Please somebody tell me what the importance of carbohydrates are in your health. I get it. If you want to point to vegetable carbohydrates, certain ones of them can serve a healthy purpose, but eating carbs in and of themselves is not the be all end all. My friend Adam says, "Picking on my Aunt Susie now, are you?" Yes, I am, Adam, because we all have that Aunt Susie and that Uncle Clyde who doesn't know how to shut up when they read an article or they hear about something and they really don't have the full context of it. But what do carbs do that are so important to your health? Like, think about that one for a moment. Maybe some of the fiber and it gives a little bit of benefit, blah, blah, blah. But really, at the end of the day, those carbs are just kind of window dressing to the main part of your meal, which is the fat and protein. They say that the carbs fuel your body. Well, guess what else can fuel your body? Fat and ketones. This is what's missing in a lot of these articles too. They pretend like carbs, which turn to glucose in the body, is the only way to fuel your body. If you choose to be a glucose burner, then absolutely, that is an absolutely true statement. But they don't ever show you the flip side. If you choose not to eat carbohydrates, you replace the carbs with fat. That fat gets converted into ketones, and that becomes a fuel source as well. And I would argue a cleaner fuel source. Your brain thrives on ketone bodies much more so than it does the glucose from eating carbohydrates. You don't get the blood sugar and insulin effects. You keep the inflammation levels minimal, all the things that lead to chronic disease. Why do they leave that out of these articles? Oh, it's an inconvenient truth. That's why. Provides your body with fuel, provides it with energy, and ironically, it induces weight loss eating more carbs. Quick poll. How many people ate more carbs and you lost weight? Anybody? I'm not hearing anybody because I've literally never, within the context of an adequate calorie diet, heard somebody have the preponderance of their diet be carbohydrates with no massive amounts of exercise, that have obesity, that have some kind of level of insulin resistance. I've never heard of those people actually losing weight, eating massive amounts of carbs. And the question should be why? What is the problem that would make carbohydrates not conducive for weight loss? It's insulin resistance. And when you're insulin resistance, which can manifest in a lot of ways, type 2 diabetes, one of the worst ways, but even like higher blood sugar levels, maybe a little bit higher triglycerides, there are all kind of things that define the metabolic syndrome. Go look that up. And if those things are out of whack, guess what? You have a disease of carbohydrate overload, not deficiency. And so if you're overloading your body with too many carbs, this is the result. And so articles like this come around. Now I'm going to say it bluntly. Dumbass articles like this come around, and it just puts people in a state of mind that, oh, I guess all those carbs on that plate are perfectly fine. And they're anything but fine. Even the banana. 29 grams of sugar in that banana. Oh, but it's natural carbs. And yes, it will naturally raise your blood sugar. So let's get into the article. I told you this one was going to fire me up today. And if you joined us late, yeah, did you know you can have a thing called carbohydrate deficiency? And if you believe that, you need to go get your head checked. All right. Carbs can be helpful for weight loss if they're eaten in the right quantity. Okay, I agree with that. 0. That's the right quantity. Carbs are very healthy in the right quantity of 0 consumption. That would be an accurate statement. I wonder if they're calling for 0 in this article. Something tells me probably not. In the world of nutrition, carbs are the second most defamed macronutrient right after fats. Well, I don't think fats should have ever been vilified. The only reason fats were vilified was all the studies were pointing the finger at sugar and carbs. And so what did they do? They squelched those studies and they started making up bullshit research against saturated fat. It has never, ever actually been shown in any study of a randomized controlled clinical trial, ever. Fats have never been shown to be anything but healthy. Go read The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz. Probably the best tome on this subject of saturated fat and why it's so healthy. There's other books out there, but that's still my favorite one that describes why fat is so important. A number of weight loss diet plans, like keto, discourage people from consuming carbs. Yeah, you bet your sweet bippy I discourage people from eating carbs in Keto Clarity. They either ask you to go low carb, which is a ketogenic diet, or an Atkins diet, or even a paleo would be considered lower carb diet, or carb-free, much in the same way that carnivore is pretty much carb-free. But let's get one thing straight. It's not going to be good, guys. Carbs are extremely important for your health. Why? This macronutrient fuels your body, provides you with energy, and ironically induces weight loss. This is contrary to the popular belief which says carbs are the main culprit behind weight gain. All right, let me stop there. Carbs are the main culprit behind weight gain because let's talk about weight gain. What is the impetus behind why people gain weight? It's not calories. That's what these people have been focused on, hyper focused on forever. And so if it's not calories, what is it? It's hormones, and specifically the insulin hormone. So then you look at insulin and you look at its role in the body. What does it do? It responds when glucose goes up. Well, what are the things that make glucose go up in the body? Carbohydrates is the main one. There's other things as well. Stress can do it. If you over-exercise, there's all kinds of things that can raise blood glucose. But the primary driver of glucose in your body going up is carb consumption. And even the so-called healthy whole grains and quinoa and buckwheat and all those other so-called superfoods, those are the things that are raising your blood sugar, which then the pancreas has no question about what they have to do. It has to pump out insulin. And over time, it has to keep pumping out insulin, hammer down the blood sugar, pump out insulin, hammer down the blood sugar, pump out insulin. You see what I'm saying? It becomes this ruthless cycle of you constantly are making your body pump out insulin. Well, over time, that insulin becomes less and less effective because it's just getting tired of having so much glucose having to do its job that it requires more insulin to do the same job. And then more insulin. That's how you develop insulin resistance and eventually type 2 diabetes and all these other manifestations of insulin resistance that we've talked about, heart disease, Alzheimer's, PCOS, all the things. And so for them to say it's contrary to the popular belief which says that carbs are the main culprit behind weight gain, they are. They are. Now, can you lose weight eating lots of carbs and low fat? You bet you can, but you got to keep your energy level, your calories so low that at some point you can't really keep that up long term. The beauty of a ketogenic approach, for example, is that it not only puts you in that state, it actually allows your body to thrive so you can keep doing it for the rest of your life. Carbs can be helpful for weight loss if they're eaten in the right quantity. So when you're aiming for weight loss, listen to what they recommend. If you're aiming for weight loss, try to cut your carb intake if it is over 2,000 calories in a day. So they're making the predication of cutting your calories as a way to cut down on carbs. Okay, but carbs have 4 grams or 4 calories per gram. Protein has 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9 calories per gram. So the temptation that people have is, oh wow, if I eliminate more fat, I can lower calories even faster, and therefore lower calories means more weight loss. That's how they trick their brain into it. So they don't really pay attention to carbohydrates. They say aim for 225 to 335 calories in a day instead of 2,000. When you consume carbs, your body breaks it down into small units of sugar, release it into your bloodstream. This transports it to your brain, muscles, cells, fuels them for energy. But when you don't get enough carbs, your body starts to respond in strange ways. Okay, we're going to get into the strange ways here in a minute. All right, so I think they did a typo. It said aim for 225 to 335 calories in a day. I think, I don't know. I think they mean less per day. And then, yeah. But you're still eating a massive amount of carbohydrates even under that auspice. Like, it's not the carbs that are the problem in that, like, it's confusing. They wrote that very confusing. But then they said when you consume carbs, your body breaks it down to small units of sugar, releases it into your bloodstream. It turns it into glucose. That's what they're referring to. And they think that's your energy source. And then they say that glucose goes to your brain, muscles, cells, fuels them with energy. That's true, but they pretend like carbs is the only thing that does that. Like we said earlier, gluconeogenesis takes the protein you eat and the fat you eat and gives you all the glucose your body needs. I had a lady I talked to on the phone just the other day. She was freaking out because in the morning she had a 120, and she eats keto, a 120 blood sugar reading in the morning. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm almost diabetic. And I'm like, all right, that's what it is in the morning. What's it like later in the day? You say, oh, later in the day it's down the 80s and it's wonderful the rest of the day, but in the morning it's 120. Is that you? Do you have a higher blood sugar in the morning? What that is a couple of hours before you wake up, you start to have a cortisol response that helps to wake you up. Well, when cortisol goes up, that's a hormone. It's associated with stress, but it's not a stress response in this context. When cortisol goes up, it raises your blood sugar. That blood sugar then is in your body, prepared for all the glucose-dependent functions of the body. So when you wake up and you prick your finger and you catch that 120, 118, 112 reading in the morning, you freak out because you're like, wait a minute, I'm eating keto. It shouldn't be that high. But what you're not understanding is that blood sugar's there for a reason. There are glucose-dependent functions of the body in the brain, the heart, and the rest of the body, as they're saying here, that helps to fuel those parts. And the way it does it is gluconeogenesis, and it takes care of those glucose-dependent functions, and then your blood sugar's normal. Now, they're saying you have to eat carbs to get there. What if you wake up in the morning and you have that level of blood sugar, but then on top of that, you have a big bowl of oatmeal and a banana and a glass of orange juice? What have you just done to your glucose requirements? You have overloaded them because your body already very intelligently created the glucose it needed. Do you see why these carbs are not as essential as they think it is? When you don't get enough carbs, your body starts to respond in strange ways. I cannot wait to see what they think is strange about restricting carbohydrates in your diet. And one last time, I'm reading from an article. If you just joined us, if you think you have carb deficiency, go get your head examined, because this article is going to give us 10 signs you're not eating enough carbs, which I thought for a low-carb keto guy, this was going to be a fun article to read today, because it gives you insights into what they think. And I'm going to correct all the misinformation. So let's do that now. Number one reason and sign why that you're not eating enough carbs, you get frequent headaches and nausea. Can I tell you one of the biggest reasons people get headaches and nausea when they restrict carbohydrates is there's this beautiful process where you're making that shift over from being mostly a sugar glucose burner into a fat and ketone burner, where your body dumps glycogen stores. And in the process of dumping glycogen stores, which are stored up in the muscles in your body, it dumps water, which is why you pee more. It's why you're thirsty more. It dumps the sugar, which is the glycogen, the glucose that's stored up in your muscles. And it also dumps electrolytes. And so what people don't do when they go low carb is replenish the water and replenish the electrolytes. Salt and magnesium primarily. You don't really have to worry about potassium as much, because when you get your salt levels right, your body naturally equalizes the salt and the potassium. So salt, magnesium, and water, and you won't experience the headaches, the so-called carb flu, keto flu, and nausea. They say here, limiting your carb intake below 50 grams in a day puts your body into a state of ketosis. Yes, it does for most people. Ketosis is a process where your body starts to use fats and proteins to produce energy. This will trigger those headaches and nausea. No! Ketosis does not trigger that. What triggers that is making that shift from sugar burner to fat burner, as I just described with the dumping of the glycogen stores. You get headaches and nausea because you have an imbalance of electrolytes. That's easily solved simply by drinking more water and having salt and magnesium. Why make this hard? Why vilify ketosis in that way? The key to going low carb is to stick to a limited yet healthy amount of carbohydrates, which will help you lose weight but does not mess with your overall well-being. What they're referring to is, oh, if you want to cut your carbs, it's okay. You can cut your carbs, just don't get into ketosis, because they think the ketosis is what caused the headaches and the nausea. And it's not the ketosis at all. So, number one, they're already misinforming people, because that's not a sign you're not eating enough carbs. That's a sign, dumbass, you're not having enough water, salt, and magnesium. Next, number two, You feel cold all the time. When you go on a low carb or no carb diet, your body, after some time, starts to show symptoms of hypothyroidism. No again. No, it doesn't. Yes, I will admit, when I was losing weight initially on the Atkins diet, I did get cold. It's because I didn't realize, and again, electrolyte balance helps with this. When you balance your electrolytes properly, it makes everything in the body work a lot better. And I was drinking cold water, so that was also exacerbating while I was losing weight. My hands getting really cold. My hands and feet just stayed cold that year. It wasn't because I was developing hypothyroidism. The thyroid does get downregulated, but it's not a worse function, it's a better function. And we talked about this in Keto Clarity. I've got a frequently asked questions section in the middle of the book. And that was one of the questions that we addressed. Does a ketogenic diet give you hypothyroidism? And in there, what we said was, yes, it lowers the numbers on your thyroid panel, but it doesn't make it lower thyroid. It makes it better. It makes it function better. Think about all the effects that your body has to do to deal with the carbs you're eating. So when you remove that stimulus, the thyroid doesn't have to work as hard, and thus you see lower numbers. But people freak out because they see the lower numbers. They say here in this article, the thyroidism develops because the thyroid gland needs glucose to produce T3 out of T4. Well, guess what? Gluconeogenesis from the fat and protein that you eat. I could make a rap song out of this because it's just the same song and dance. They pretend like when the body needs glucose, it has to get it from carbohydrates solely. It does not. T3 is the hormone which helps your body produce heat and to send it to the cells. When your body falls short of this hormone, you end up feeling cold all the time. Part of the solution is to increase your carb intake. If you increase your carb intake, yes, you will feel warmer. Yes, you will see the levels on your thyroid panel get better. But no, you won't be getting healthier. This is an adaptation to ketosis that's not talked about. A lot of these effects that they're going to be talking about, these signs that you're not eating enough carbs, it's in the early days of starting a low-carb ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet. In the early days, you'll have some of these things, but it's not because you're carb deficient. It's just because your body is still making that transition from sugar burn to fat burner. And when you get into fat burning mode, the cold hands, the cold feet, all those things get better, and you don't have hypothyroidism. I hate that kind of stuff gets out there because it's simply not true. Next, number 3, for you ladies out there, irregular and painful menstrual cycles. Now, I just did a whole Jimmy Rants yesterday, reading from a study that found a ketogenic diet improved menstrual periods. It just amazes me they can put this in an article with a straight face. But the problem is people are so gullible. They read something like this and it's in print. Oh, if it's in print, it must be true. And it's not. A low carb intake in extreme cases can give you ladies painful and irregular periods when the female body does not feel fed. Because you don't eat carbs in your diet, you're not fed. Did you know that, ladies? Those of you that eat carnivore or very low carb, did you know you're not feeding yourself well? You're not fed? You don't feel fed. How many of you eat a big ass steak and, I can't eat anymore? Do you feel fed? Hell yeah, you do. What are they talking about? When you don't feel fed, it shuts down your reproductive system in order to protect the body from pregnancy during this dangerous time. Don't you love the hyperbole of the language? One of the best ways to make the body feel fed is to simply eat more carbs. Bullshit! One of the best ways to make the body feel fed is to eat as much fat and protein until satiety that you can. What is it about carbs that makes you feel full and fed? Did they just pull that out of their keister? Come on. Carbs can help balance hormone levels. Oh yeah? How's that work? Somebody explain to me how carbs balance your hormones. Last time I checked, when carbs are present in the body, it raises blood sugar, which then raises the master hormone known as insulin. And then insulin is high, it messes with every other hormone in the endocrine system. So what are they talking about? And it prevents the estrogen distress, which could be giving you those painful cramps and irregular periods. I'm not a girl, and I don't pretend to be one or play one on Instagram or on video. But I know from all the studies I've read and from the women in my life, you guys that watch this show, when you go keto, your periods are shorter. Your periods are less painful. And you get through them. So that one's... Number 4, you are constantly out of energy when you don't eat enough carbs. Carbs are the main source of energy for your body. Wrong again. Technically, it is correct if you are a carb burner and you're choosing to make carbs the preponderance of your energy source. But when you shift over and you don't make carbs the primary energy, you eat low carb, what's the new primary energy in your diet? It's fat. And then those fats that get converted into beta hydroxybutyrate in the blood, and that's how you energize your body. Again, they know that, and yet in these articles, carbs are the main source of energy for the body. As if it's an absolute and there's no other explanation for how you get energy in the body. This is the kind of thing that confuses people, which is why you got Jimmy Moore on Jimmy Rants explaining this. So when you go on a low carb diet or you give up carbs completely, you are ought to feel fatigued and out of energy all the time. No, you don't. When you cut down on carbs and you go through that transition period of shifting from sugar burn to fat loss, sometimes when you shift from sugar burn to fat burner, you will find that you'll have a temporary level of fatigue, but that doesn't last long. When you make that full switch over into nutritional ketosis, what happens? You actually have more energy, and you don't feel fatigued at all. Guys, I haven't had a substantial amount of carbs in my diet for over 15 years. Do I ever look like I'm fatigued or out of energy when I do Jimmy Rants? No. And I'm always energetic, by the way. When I'm in waking hours and I'm not sleepy because my circadian rhythm has me sleepy towards the evening hours and I sleep through the night and I'm up early. When I'm up, I'm energetic, I'm not fatigued, and I'm go. But apparently you're not supposed to be that way on a low carb diet, according to this article. Even on a low carb diet, those initial few days are going to make you feel tired constantly. Again, initial few days does not define the totality of your ketogenic diet. Let's stop pretending like what happens in the first few days of a ketosis journey is what's going to be like months and years down the road of doing this. This is what discourages people, you guys, from even trying this way of eating. They read articles, cockamamie articles, bullshit articles like this one, and they get discouraged away from it. Oh my God, I don't want all that to happen, when it's not true. All these things can be mitigated with various things and are extremely temporary at best. Number 5, they go to the gym next. Your gym sessions just simply won't be effective anymore. When you're constantly out of energy, you're not. It is difficult for you to give your best in the gym. I don't know about you guys, but when I am full on in ketosis and I'm feeling my oats with that, I'm ready to take on the world. And when you're adequately, sufficiently full of your essential amino acids, you feel like Superman in the gym. Let's not pretend like keeping carbs down is going to make you fatigued when all that fat and protein gives you lots of energy. Your ability to run on the treadmill goes down and you perform less reps on every exercise. That's not been my experience. Have you seen that happen? Carbs make it easier for you to go through high intensity workout sessions. I guarantee you, I can do a high intensity workout, and I've got a little tractor tire over here that I can flip in the side of my yard over here. That is a high intensity, full body, oh my God, it's going to kick my butt workout. And I do that eating basically fat and protein. I'm mostly carnivore, and so I don't have any trouble doing that. So high intensity, they say you need carbs for that. I know my friend Tara Garrison, who talks about strategic carbs post-workout, so that then you have glycogen top-offs for the next day, which would then give you energy for that next workout, which you would then deplete. You never get out of ketosis, and it keeps your body energized to be able to do those really glycolytically demanding workouts. But most people don't push their bodies that hard. Most people, walking on a treadmill is not glycolytically demanding. Lightly lifting weights is not glycolytically demanding. High intensity interval training, that's glycolytically demanding. Lifting extremely heavy, that's glycolytically demanding. And so those are the workouts where maybe strategically you could put in a few carbs, but you're not even talking about massive amounts. And you're not even talking about it pre-workout. It would be a post-workout to fuel you for the next day. So this doesn't make any sense at all. If you want to spend more hours in the gym, it's important for you to fill up on the carbs. Athletes engaged in endurance sports practice carbohydrate loading the day before the game. Oh yeah? That's not everybody. There are lots of marathon runners and other athletes who don't do the whole carb loading the day before. In fact, some of the world record holders in marathons, they tend to be people who are very carbohydrate restricted, and they'll do strategic carbs on the day of the race, but it's not this big bolus of carbs the night before, as you hear so many racers do. The carbs keep them energized for the upcoming day. I've heard from Mark Cucuzella is a medical doctor, and he's a runner, and he talks about on the day of a race, he will fill up on about 150 grams of carbohydrate before the race starts. And what that does is it tops off all of his glycogen stores. He comes into it very well fat adapted, but it tops off the glycogen stores. And for the first few miles of his run, he's burning through that jet fuel of the glycogen stores. Well, guess what he fuels on after that? It's the fat that he's trained his body to use for energy. Whereas if you have that big bolus of carbs the night before, you're used to being a carb burner, you burn through that bolus of carbs in your body, you end up bonking, hitting the wall, you have no backup fuel source. This is why keto is so effective. So this idea that your gym sessions will be ineffective is bogus again. Number 6 is one that I've seen ever since I came on the scene back in 2005, writing about the Atkins diet and low carb diets. Halitosis. You'll have bad, smells good, bad breath. Giving up on carbs means your body does not have anything to burn for producing energy. It doesn't have anything to burn, guys. Listen to the next line. Therefore, since it has nothing to burn, it starts to burn fats and proteins instead. If they were trying to make this like a spoof article, they couldn't have done it any better than what they did. And this is a real article, by the way. This is actual journalism that got published. Giving up on carbs means your body does not have anything to burn for producing energy. So, it starts to burn fats and proteins instead for energy. This process turns into ketosis, gives you the bad breath in the initial few days. And Becky says, yeah, dragon breath. And quite frankly, Dr. Atkins used to describe it as a sweet breath. It's very minimal. It's very temporary. Let's not pretend like halitosis sticks around forever. I think it's a process of where the body's still trying to figure out from sugar burner to fat burner. Once you're in full-on fat burning mode, you don't have that bad breath anymore. So when your body's in ketosis, the used fats and proteins give you that bad breath. No, the used fats and proteins is what gives you the fuel. Let's stop pretending like they're this boogeyman in the diet. I still can't get over that line. Giving up on carbs means your body does not have anything to burn for producing energy. Yeah, it does. And you just stated in the next line, fats and proteins are what burn for energy. Duh. Now, maybe you don't like that fats and proteins are being burned for energy, but that's biologically what's happening. Number 7, you feel constipated every now and then. Dun, dun, dun. Carbs include foods like lentils, beans, and vegetables. These are high fiber foods, which will keep your bowel movements in check. So when you give up on the carbs, all you carnivore idiots out there, the primary sources of fiber for your body are no longer consumed. Uh-oh, this will make you feel constipated, and your digestive tract goes through a great deal of inconvenience. So those of you that made the switch over to keto, and especially those of you that eat carnivore, yes, you can have some difficulty in your bowel movements, partly because most of the bulk in your poop is from the carbs that you ate. So when you remove those carbs and you're no longer having those as a part of your diet, and because you're shifting from sugar burn to fat burner, like we talked about earlier, and you start dumping the glycogen stores, you dump water. If you don't replenish that water, you do get kind of dehydrated, and that leads to some of the constipation. So make sure you stay fully hydrated. Make sure you have the magnesium and the sodium from salt. Those things will keep things moving. Now, be careful with magnesium because it can be a laxative effect in excess, especially magnesium citrate. But if you're constipated, take some magnesium citrate. This is not going to be a long-term problem. Yet again, they're pretending like this event that happens at the early part of going keto or carnivore is something that happens the whole time you're on it, and it's simply not true. Complex carbs like cereal, pasta, breads keep your bowel movement in check and should not be given up. All of those things will rip a bloody murder out of your insides. Read a book called The Fiber Menace. Konstantin Monastyrsky is the name of the author. Interviewed him many years ago on the Living La Vida Low Carb show. The Fiber Menace should be available on Amazon, wherever you get books. And it explains why fiber is overblown. We don't really need fiber in our diet. It's not this grand essential. There is no essential fiber. They can say all they want on the front packaging of foods. Oh, you get all the essential fiber in this food, in this Cheerios or whatever. There is no essential fiber, but they make it seem like it is. So constipation, hydrate well, magnesium, salt, done. And if you've got constipation, one of the best ways to stimulate your bowels is a good workout. Go work out, go for a run, go do some heavy, intense workout. I guarantee you'll be crapping your brains out. Number 8, you're hungry more often than ever before. So when you don't eat carbs, not eating carbs makes you more hungry. Those of you that are very well adept at how you felt eating carbs primarily as your diet, and those of you now that have shifted that over to mostly fat and protein on a keto or carnivore approach, which way were you more hungry with? It's obvious. It's the carbs. And again, the reason why, what we talked about earlier, carbs raise blood sugar, raise insulin, which then stokes hunger. It's a ruthless cycle. We got out of that cycle. And so for them to make the statement, you're experiencing more hunger pains than ever before. I hardly have hunger at all. In fact, I almost have to remind myself to eat somewhat. I fall into about two times a day, sometimes one time a day, and sometimes I skip a day with eating. That's the beauty of not eating carbohydrates. When you give up on carbs, you give up the high fiber foods. There is this notion out there that the only way to feel full is lots of fiber, which comes from carbohydrates. But they're not talking about the satiating effects of protein and fat in combination. Much more satiating than all the fiber in the world. Because of the high fiber foods, you do not feel full for longer and experience frequent hunger. When you give up carbs, you do not feel full for longer and experience frequent hunger pangs. This is why people who eat a low carb diet have a hard time losing weight. If you're feeling hunger pangs on a low carb, ketogenic, or carnivore diet, can I tell you what's wrong? You're not eating enough. If you're getting hungry on those ways of eating, you're not eating near enough total calories, and I would say focus in on more fat calories. I think what happens is people come into a low carb approach and they think, okay, I need to eat low carb, but I also know low fat is healthy for me. So let me eat low fat, low carb, and you're just setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for hunger and cravings, and you're setting yourself up to think that low carb is whacked. A well-formulated ketogenic diet is one that is low in carbohydrate, moderate in protein, and high in fat. And when I say high in fat, it could be upwards of 70 to 75% fat. Like that study I read from yesterday, that was their goal, to get them between 70 to 75% of their calories coming from fat. So if you feel hunger on a ketogenic diet, that's your fault. You're not eating enough food, or you're not eating enough fat. And it's usually both. Number 9, we got 2 more. You are experiencing too many mood swings. I laugh at these because all of the things they blame on a low carb keto are exactly the things of a carb brain and of carbing yourself. You're experiencing too many mood swings. I don't know about you, but mood stabilization was one of the best parts of going keto. I used to have some mood swings and it was bad. And when I started getting into a consistent level of ketosis, I stay pretty chill almost all the time. And it gives me a positive demeanor and keeps me in a positive mood. I've had nothing but good things, and I hardly eat any carbs in my diet at all. One of the most important functions of carbs is releasing serotonin in the body. The happy hormone, feel-good chemical in the brain, makes you happy. So does bacon and pork belly and ribeye steak. Can you not get a serotonin boost from eating those things? You bet you can. Let's not pretend like that's a carb issue. When you are eating too few carbs, your body stops producing the requisite amount of serotonin. This gives you frequent mood swings. Lack of energy and frequent hunger pangs gives you these mood swings. I'm just curious. Anybody else experience that, where you cut down on carbs and you ate plenty of fat and protein and you had mood swings? Almost everybody experiences improvements in brain health when they do a well-formulated ketogenic diet. Why? Not because you have a lack of energy or the hunger pains or the serotonin is off. Ketones flood your brain. Ketones boost serotonin. Ketones make you happy because you're eating foods that taste good. That boosts your mood. And then you get the benefits of the ketone production coming from those foods you eat. And then that fuels your brain. That fuels other parts of your body that would make you pretty calm, pretty chill. I'm flabbergasted that they would even make that remark. And then the last sign of carb deficiency, number 10, your weight loss progress has come to a standstill. It has to be because you cut too many carbs. A low carb diet, also known as a keto diet, is touted to be one of the best, most effective methods for losing weight. It is. However, after some time, your weight loss comes to a standstill. Newsflash! When you go on any kind of a plan to shed weight, any plan, it's not going to be consistent weight loss every week until you're done. That's not how it works. You will have weight loss, stall. And it might stall for a few weeks, a few months, but then you start again and things shift in the body. What are they talking about? That's a sign of carb deficiency? The reason responsible for this weight loss standstill is improper carb consumption. When you eat less carbs, you force your liver to release more sugar. No, the liver does a very beautiful process of converting the fat and protein that you eat into glucose, which is then to go to all the glucose dependent functions in the body. That's not a deficiency in carbohydrate. That's the body doing what it does to have you function optimally. Why don't we trust our bodies to do what it's supposed to do and function the way it's supposed to function? When this happens, your blood sugar level increases, and to control the spike, your pancreas releases insulin, the fat-storing hormone. As a result, instead of losing weight, you end up storing fat. Again, they're explaining what happens when you eat too many carbohydrates, not a carb deficiency. So they're claiming that when you don't eat enough carbs in your diet, it slows down your weight loss. And the reason responsible for it is improper carb consumption. Eating less carbs forces your liver to release sugar, and it's the sugar produced by your liver converting it from the fat and protein, which then raises your blood sugar and raises insulin and makes you fat. Inconvenient truth one more time. What else raises blood sugar that then spikes insulin, that then prevents you from losing weight? The very thing they're telling them to do is eat more carbs. And it happens on a faster level than the gluconeogenesis. See, they pretend like this liver pumping out glucose is exactly the same as your body eating carbohydrates that turn to glucose. No, this way produces that blood sugar spike, which then leads to the higher insulin. This way, it happens faster. Gluconeogenesis is demand driven. Your liver won't produce glucose unless it knows, oh, I've got a part of the body that needs some glucose. Let's take some of the amino acids and fatty acids that this wonderfully brilliant person is feeding me up there. Let's convert it over into glucose so we can send it to the brain, send it to the heart, send it to the different parts of the body that need it. And that's how it works. It's not spiking blood sugar. It's not raising insulin levels. But carbohydrate sure is. All right, I'm done with this article. Sick of those articles, man. They trip me out. But they make for fun fodder here on Jimmy Rants. What do you guys think about what they shared in here? I almost feel like I need a mic and just drop it. Oh, I do have a mic, but I don't want to drop it because it's too damn expensive. But mic drop. All right, let's go to you before I have a nervous breakdown. We're going to go here first to Instagram, then over to Facebook, finally over to Twitch. Appreciate you guys being here today. JimmyRants.com is the website. See what you guys have to say. ABG says, yes, PMS is completely gone since going whole real food keto 2 years ago. That's awesome. I love hearing those kinds of stories. Thank you. Does the author offer any references for the assertions, Marcus? No. I looked for it at the end. I was like, okay, surely there's references. No. And they could literally say anything under that auspice. And that's literally what they did. And it wasn't even like somebody put a name to it. It wasn't like an RD wrote it. An RD probably did write it. But it wasn't like an RD wrote it and then they put their name to it. It was just staff editors. And so they were too cowardly to even put their name on it. Becky says, I've never been constipated a day with carnivore. My digestive system improves. Some people have a little bit of loose stools when they first go carnivore, but then I think that's, again, where the body is dumping some of that excess glucose from the glycogen stores, and then it clears up. So, ABG says, Maria and Craig Emmerich both remind us that babies from the womb do not have any fiber in their diet, and they still poop. Infants who are breastfed are in a natural state of ketosis. And in fact, when infants are born, they're born into ketosis. I was just talking with somebody for an upcoming episode of my podcast, talking about this very thing, that people don't realize, if ketosis was a dangerous state, why is every baby in the first few months of their life, every single one of them, in ketosis? And when they start breastfeeding, heavily in ketosis. It's amazing. Great mood is one of the best things about keto as long as I keep the fats up, says Becky. Yes, you've got to keep those fats at a level where you keep hunger at bay. You convert enough into ketones, which then fuel your brain, and that gives you the mood stabilization. I love it. And again, in Keto Clarity, this is one of the benefits that I shared in there big time was, guys, go keto if for no other reason, the brain health benefits. I always wanted to write a book called Brain Clarity. I never got around to it. But all the brain health benefits that come from being in a state of ketosis, it's invaluable. Brandy says, looks like they are focusing on all the things that you experience in the beginning part of your transition. Exactly. Doesn't look like they talk to anyone who is well adapted. No, because once you're well keto adapted, none of these things are a point anymore. Brandy says mood swings equal carb withdrawal. Yeah. So if it's early on, you're right. That's exactly what's going on. You're going through that transition where your body's not quite running on fat and ketones yet, and it's still running on glucose, but you're not feeding it a lot of glucose. And so there is a little bit of kind of a panic that the body does in that transition period. And it can happen in as short as a week for some people. Most people somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, and in some people heavily insulin resistant, it could take 4 to 6 weeks to get fully keto adapted. So if you put people through those first 6 weeks and you get them through all the hard part, then tell me how they're feeling 6 weeks on, if they're still on it and they're getting encouragement and people are explaining things and talking about being adequately with water and salt and magnesium. You get all those things balanced, they'll make it. And then when they get fully keto adapted, then they're like, whoa, what was I worried about? Becky says, if I do low fat, high protein, like a protein sparing modified fast, then I get very moody. Yeah. I don't do well when my fat calories go low. Just can't. Your body always strives to be in homeostasis, says ABG. Yeah. Marcus says high blood sugar in pregnancy causes an overly large newborn. And it's because of the insulin response, right? Like insulin is a growth hormone. And that's what it does. I was almost 11 pounds, by the way, when my mama had me back in 1971. She was telling me this story the other day. She said, you were supposed to be born like late November. My birthday's December 27th. And so they kept me in her 10 months. And she was well over like 300, 350 pounds when I was born, because I've seen the pictures of her. She was a very large woman and obviously had high blood sugar levels, maybe gestational diabetes. And I came out 10 3/4 pounds. Hi, she said, on day one of being a newborn, I lifted up my neck and I was looking around like, hello world, where you been my whole life? And I'm still a rebel today. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let's pop over here now to Facebook, see what you guys have to say, and we'll come over to Twitch next. What's up, Facebook? Appreciate you being here. Bonnie says, what are your thoughts on metabolic confusion? What's the confusion about metabolic? You mean keeping your body guessing? I think that's a decently good idea. Always kind of changing things up and not letting your body get too used to anything. So yeah, I love it. Norma says, due to pain meds since 1992, my constipation's been a huge problem. Went carnivore in March, and I go every day at least once a day. That's beautiful, and I love it. And again, it's because your body's functioning well. And yeah, some of those pain meds can be a you-know-what with the constipation. Carol says, best rant ever. Yes! I did have fun today with that. Chris says, that's where that article belongs. Yeah, I threw it. It's over there. It's kind of scattered on my floor on Jimmy Rant Studio here. All right, thank you, Facebook. Now let's pop over here now to Twitch. What's up, Twitch? See what you guys have to say. My wife just this morning was concerned about my zero carb diet. I checked my sugar for her benefit. It was 87. Blood ketone 1.0. Good job, Marcus. Good job. Cariana says, I have to laugh when friends and family say it's because you're getting too skinny about the being cold thing. Yeah. And like I said, I was cold when I lost my initial weight, 180 pounds in 1 year. That was a huge drop. And I wasn't aware of all the electrolyte balance and all the other things I now know abundantly well. If I could take Jimmy's brain about what I know now and take it back to that poor guy that was trying to get healthy back then, I would definitely have overcome a lot of the struggles that I had. But these articles like this don't help, do they? And when they get out there, we need to counter them, which is what I do here on Jimmy Rants. And that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. Come follow me right here over on Instagram. I'm at Jimmy Rants over there. So go check us out Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Be there, be square. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as on Twitch. Just a reminder, download the Twitch app. Follow Jimmy More Rants over there, and you'll be able to watch the show live. If you miss the live, you can watch it on the replay right here on the Jimmy Rants Instagram page. IGTV is where that is. It's also up over on Twitch as well as on YouTube. If you type in a keyword Jimmy Rants over on YouTube, you'll find the show. By the way, today on YouTube, I have a special bonus episode for you guys to watch. It is my interview on the Living La Vida Low Carb show with a carnivore doctor named Dr. Lisa Wiederman. Carnivore Doctor is her username here on Instagram. Go check her out, follow her, but go watch our interview over on YouTube. Go check that out. Or if you would prefer to listen to the podcast, go to the Living La Vida Low Carb show podcast today. Wherever you get your podcast, it should be available around midday today. Go check it out, Dr. Lisa Wiederman, or at llvlc.com. And then finally, you can see all the past episodes of Jimmy Rants over at jimmyrants.com, where we house all of those. So guys, tomorrow I have another study. After today's mockery of talking about carb deficiency, let's talk about a carb deficiency diet. And I have a study here. A zero carbohydrate carnivore diet will normalize in small intestinal bacterial overgrowth breath tests. It's a case report looking at carnivore for treating SIBO. It's really exciting stuff, you guys. I try to keep you on the cutting edge. Thank you so much for your support of my work. Keep coming back. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And so until then, we'll see you then.